Welcome to Monday Book Club with Laurie Bug. We are currently reading Red Mars by Kim Stanley Robinson. It's a book about the colonization of Mars if Elon Musk did not exist. Thank you. We finished part 6 last week. We'll be starting part 7 tonight. Senzuni Na. Not to be confused with Shikata Ganai. Part 6 of Red Mars ends with Frank helping... Oh, I had my own summary, but it's so tempting to read Purple Wings. Earth's crisis worsens. Wait, I'm gonna do my summary and then read yours. Okay. We're on part 6. Part 7. We finished part 6 last week with, two Russian cities went on strike to protest their living conditions / terrorist attacks. Frank and Maya worked together to pacify the Russian and American workers and assure them that if they just follow protocol, that their complaints will be addressed. And then terrorists attacked... No, wait, alright, let's walk it back. Then Frank and Maya went to the city of Nicosia, where 10 years earlier, Frank had orchestrated the assassination of John Boone, the first man on the moon. Mars. The first man on Mars was assassinated in this very city 10 years ago. And Frank and Maya, after pacifying the Russian and American strikers, or should I say complainers, went to Nicosia for some reason, and then there was a terrorist attack on Nicosia, and the entire city was ripped open to the elements of Mars. And Maya was like, "Oh my God, Frank, why is this happening? What's going on?" And Frank was like, "It's a revolution." Am I the only one buffering? That sucks. I really hope you're not buffering. Roar is one of the other department heads of book club. Your summaries are always better than mine, and not just because I have to condense mine to fit under 500 characters. Yeah, it's because I'm drunk. I forgot to go back and read yours, though. Just to make you feel bad. Part 6 of Kim Stanley Robinson's Red Mars ends with Frank helping Maya to rally the Russian workers. True. Earth's... I just don't... The word rally is too positive. He was teaching her how to manipulate people, and she was like, "Damn, that's so hot. Oh my God." The part 6 ends with Frank helping Maya to manipulate the Russian workers. Earth's crisis worsens. I love that as a whole sentence. The mohole town of Hephaestus is abandoned. Oh yeah, and they have abandoned cities, and everybody's going to join the Martian underground, which literally we know nothing about, except for rumors. Frank argues with Arcady over the phone. I love your summaries, though. I love the detail. Frank argues with Arcady over the phone. Yeah. They go to, that's why they went to Nicosia. They went to Nicosia and they were like, where's Arcady? And everyone was like, Arcady doesn't live here. And then the terrorist attack happened. All of a sudden, the city dome, like the biodome, it's technically like a tent. The tent gets slashed open. Literally, the entire atmosphere just gets sucked out of the room. They're like, Arcady was never here. Click. And then a fucking bomb goes off. Frank addresses a crowd in Elysium, urging unity and action. Subarashi takes over Subarashi took over the elevator consortium with the help of Phyllis. True. Which undoes Frank's campaigning against emigration to Mars from Earth, which Earth is basically a dumpster. And they're trying to turn Mars into like an easy out. And of course, every fucking derelict from Earth wants to go work on Mars. Ugh. But now that Subarashi owns the space elevator, who can stop it? Frank is losing his fucking mind, by the way. Frank is currently going through a psychotic episode. He almost admitted to Maya that he killed John. He was like, what does Maya want to talk about? Does she know that I murdered John? And then they get married. And he's like, phew, she just wanted to propose. She does not know that I murdered John, though, and that makes me respect her less. And then the terrorist attack happens. With Maya, he returns to Nicosia, where a terrorist attack destroys the city's dome, escalating rebellion and turmoil on Mars, to be continued in Part 7. There we go. Hold on, I can't see anything except for this chat history. Okay. And then they yucked. He's like, do you know I killed John? She's like, what? And he's like, marry me, please? I said, will you marry me? Do you love me? The end. How many other people do you know that murdered the first man on Mars? Okay. Then there was a sharp jolt. The doors all hissed shut. The building was sealing, meaning pressures outside had made a rapid drop. He and Maya ran to the window and looked out. The tent over Nicosia was gone. Down. Sorry, not gone. The tent over Nicosia was down. In some places, stretched over the tallest rooftops like saran wrap. In others, blowing away on the wind. People down on the street were pounding on doors, running, collapsing, huddled in on themselves like the bodies in Pompeii. Frank wheeled away, his teeth bursting with hot pain, because he has bruxism. Frank wheeled away, his teeth bursting with hot pain. Apparently, the building had sealed successfully. Below all the noise, Frank could hear or feel the hum of a generator. The video screens were blank, which had the effect of making it hard to believe the view out of the window. Maya's face was pink, but her manner calm. The tent is down. I know. Trent's Trendy Tents. The tent is down. I know. But what happened? He didn't reply. She was working away at the video screens. Have you tried the radio yet? No. Well, she cried, exasperated by his silence. Do you know what's going on? Revolution, he said. Part 7. Senzanina. It's so delicious. This has been a very juicy book. I will say that much. Like, if you can tell from the pages, this is very juicy. Part 7, Senzanina. On the 14th day of the revolution, Arkady Bogdanov dreamed he and his father... Is this an Arkady section? Is this Arkady chapter? Narrated by Arkady? Oh. By the way, the terrorists who took down the tent actually talked with Frank just a while before, but Frank did not recognize who they were. But it led to Frank trying to warn the authorities. Ooh. Very true, very true. I like to leave those details out so that all of the people who do not pay attention or attend Monday Book Club fail the test at the end of the semester. But that is true, Purple Wayne. And that's why you're on the committee. He did meet a random... It very much paralleled Chapter 1, Part 1. Where Frank was the mischievous little goblin running around Nicosia, attending to his conspiracy of murder / political assassination. And then in part 6, and at the end of part 6, there's another little goblin who's like, "Hi, Frank, remember me?" And he's like, "No." And they're like, "Oh, hee, it's my turn." Okay. On the 14th day of the revolution, Arkady Bogdanov dreamed he and his father sat on a wooden box before a small fire at the edge of a clearing. A kind of campfire, except that the long, low, tin-roofed buildings of Ugali were just 100 meters behind their back. They had their bare hands extended to the radiant heat. And his father was once again telling the story of his encounter with the snow leopard. It was windy, and the flames gusted. Then a fire alarm rang out behind them. It was Arkady's alarm, set for 4 a.m. He got up and took a hot sponge bath. An image from the dream reoccurred to him. He had not slept much since the revolt's beginning. Just a few hours snatched here or there, and his alarm had wakened him from several deep sleep dreams, the kind one normally did not remember. Almost all had been undistorted memories of his childhood. Memories never once recalled before. It made him wonder how much the memory held, and if its storage might not be immensely more powerful than its retrieval mechanism. Might one be able to remember every second of one's life, but only in dreams that were lost on wakening? Might this be necessary somehow? And if so, what would happen if people started living for 200 or 300 years? Janet Blyleven came by, looking worried. They've blown up Nemesis. Roald has analyzed the video and guesses they hit it with a bunch of hydrogen bombs. They went next door to Carr's big city offices. Where Arkady had spent most of the previous 2 weeks. Alex and Roald were inside watching the TV. Roald said, "Screen, replay tape 1 for Arkady." An image flickered and held. Black space, the thick net of stars, and mid-screen, a dark, irregular asteroid, visible mostly as a patch of occluded stars. For a few moments, the image held, and then a white light appeared on the side of the asteroid. The expansion and dispersal of the asteroid was immediate. "Fast work," Arkady remarked. There's another angle from a camera farther away. This clip showed the asteroid as oblong, and it was possible to make out the silver blisters of its mass driver. Then there was a white flash, and when the black sky returned, the asteroid was gone. A shimmering of stars to the right of the screen indicated the passage of fragments. Then they studied, and it was over. Oh yeah, and I forgot to summarize. Basically, war were declared. If that wasn't obvious. A shimmering of stars to the right of the screen indicated the passage of fragments. Then they studied, and it was over. And where's Hiroko? Emmerich, shut up. Hiroko is doing whatever the fuck she wants if she's still alive. She has nothing to do with this. Probably. "You Klingon bastard, you killed my son." No fiery white cloud. Yeah, you better apologize. That's such a Michelle thing to ask. I'm sorry. Khan! Okay, I'm done making references. Good to see you all. Blah, 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 blah. No fiery white cloud. No roar on the soundtrack. Just a reporter's tinny voice, chattering about the end of the Martian rioters' doomsday threat. Did they just blow up Phobos? Okay, whatever. I don't know. She better still be alive. Well, she might have died of old age. Like, she might have wanted that. That's the only thing I can think of. They did? Tinny. Tinny voice. But if titty tickles you, then sure. No fiery white cloud, no roar on the soundtrack. Just a reporter's tinny voice, chattering about the end of the Martian rioters' doomsday threat, and the vindication of the concept of strategic defense. Although apparently the missiles had come from the Amex lunar base, launched by railgun. Yeah, that sounds safe. For those who don't remember, Senzani Na, the title of Part 7, refers to the name of a city on Mars, founded early on by the Japanese. It's been mentioned multiple times before in the book. I knew it was a city on Mars, and I forgot to say that. It's a city on Mars, not to be confused with the Japanese phrase, Shikata Ganai. But I couldn't remember what the city was or why it was important. So thank you, Purple Wayne. Hello, Scotty Fox. I never did like the idea, Arcady said. It was mutually assured destruction all over again. Roald said, but if there's mutual assured destruction, and one side loses the capability, we haven't lost the capability here, though. And they value what's here as much as we do. So now we're back to the Swiss defense. Destroy what they wanted and take to the hills. For resistance forever. It was more to his liking. It's weaker, Roald said bluntly. He had voted with the majority, in favor of sending Nemesis on its course towards Earth. Arcady nodded. It is weaker. It's weaker. Arcady nodded. It couldn't be denied that one term had been erased from the equation. But it wasn't clear if the balance of power had changed or not. Nemesis had not been his idea. Mikhail Yangel had proposed it, and the group in the asteroids had carried it out on their own. Now, a lot of them were dead, killed by the big explosion, or by smaller ones out in the belt. While Nemesis itself had created the impression that the rebels would countenance mass destruction on Earth, Nemesis had not been his idea. Mikhail Yangel had proposed it, and the group in the asteroids had carried it out on their own. Now a lot of them were dead, killed by the big explosion or by smaller ones out in the belt. While Nemesis itself had created the impression that the rebels would countenance mass destruction on Earth. A bad idea, as Arcady had pointed out. But that was life in a revolution. No one was in control, no matter what people said. Ads. I shall wait for the ads, because I am a patriot. You are welcome. For me, the ads were short. I'm already back. Yes, that is how I do things around here. When I am president, I decree that there shall be no more than 30 seconds of ads per hour. That is 0.5 to 60. I mean, something like that. You're welcome. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. But that was life in revolution. No one was in control, no matter what they said. And for the most part, it was better that way. Especially here on Mars. Fighting had been severe in the first week. Unoma and the Transnationals had beefed up their security forces in the previous year. A lot of the big cities had been instantly seized by them. And it might have happened everywhere, except that there turned out to be so many more rebel groups than they, or anyone else, had known about. Over 60 towns and stations had gotten on the net and declared independence. They had popped out of the labs and the hills and simply taken over. And now, with Earth on the far side of the sun, and the nearest continuous shuttle destroyed, it was the security forces who were looking under siege, big cities or not. A call came from the physical plant. They were having some trouble with the computers, and they wanted Arkady to come and have a look. He left the city offices and walked across Menlo Park to the plant. It was just after sunrise, and most of Carr Crater was still in shadow. Only the west wall and the tall concrete buildings of the physical plant were in sunlight at this hour. Their walls all yellow in the raw morning light. The pieces running up the crater wall like gold ribbons. In the shadowed streets, the city was just waking. A lot of rebels had come in from other towns or the cratered highlands, and they slept on the park grass. People sat up, sleeping bags still draped over their legs, eyes puffy, hair wild. Night temperatures were being kept up, but it was still cool at dawn. And those out of their bags crouched around stoves, blowing into their hands and puttering with coffee pots and samovars, and checking to the west to see how close the line of sunlight had crept. When they saw Arkady, they waved. And more than once he was stopped by people who wanted to get his opinion of the news or give him advice. Arkady answered them all cheerfully. Again, he felt that difference in the air. The sense that they were all in a new space together. Everyone facing the same problems. Everyone equal. Everyone seeing a heating coil glowing under a coffee pot. Incandescent with the electricity of freedom. He walked feeling lighter, chattering into his wristpad's diary file as he went. The park reminds me of what Orwell said about Barcelona in the hands of the anarchists. It is the euphoria of a new social contract, of a return to that child's dream of fairness we all began with. His wrist pad beeped, and Phyllis's face appeared on the tiny screen, which was annoying. "What do you want?" he asked. "Nemesis is gone. We want you to surrender before any more damage is done. It's simple now, Arkady. It is simple now, Arkady. Surrender or die." He almost laughed. She was like the Wicked Witch in the Oz movie, appearing unexpectedly in his crystal ball. "It's no laughing matter," she exclaimed. Suddenly he saw that she was scared. "You know we had nothing to do with Nemesis," he said. "It's irrelevant." "How can you be such a fool?" she cried. "It is not foolishness. Listen. You tell your masters this. If they try to subdue the free cities here, we will destroy everything on Mars." That was the Swiss defense. "Do you think that matters?" She was white-lipped, her tiny image like a primitive fury mask. "It matters. Look, Phyllis, I'm only the polar cap of this. There's a massive underground lens that you can't see. It's really vast, and they've got the means to strike back at you if they want." She must have let her arm fall, because the image on his little screen swung wildly, then showed a floor. "You were always a fool," her disembodied voice said. "Even back on the Ares." The connection went dead. Arkady walked on, the city's bustle no longer as exhilarating as it had been. Not incandescent with the electricity of freedom. The connection went dead. Arkady walked on, the city's bustle no longer as exhilarating as it had been. If Phyllis were frightened... ... At the physical plant, they were busy running a malfunction search. A couple of hours before, oxygen levels in the city had begun to rise, and no warning lights had gone off. A tech had discovered it accidentally. Half an hour's work and they found it. A program had been substituted. They replaced it, but Tati Anakin was not happy. Look, that had to be sabotage. And there's still more oxygen than even this accounts for. Look, it's nearly 40% out there now. No wonder everyone was in such a good mood this morning. I'm not. Besides, that mood thing is a myth. Are you sure? Go through the programming again and look at the encryption IDs and see if there are any other substitutions hidden under this one. He headed back to the city offices. He was halfway there when there was a loud pop overhead. He looked up and saw a small hole in the dome. The air suddenly took on an iridescent shimmer, as if they were inside a great soap bubble. A bright flash and a loud boom knocked him off his feet. Struggling back up, he saw everything ignite simultaneously. People were burning like torches. And right before his eyes, his arm caught fire. I have to pee so bad. And yay, war were declared. Let's go.